game. The Quista also banned away. The Thresh now banned away too. So we're getting that consistent, the Syndra, the Varus, the Thresh, 3 champions who are S tier in their respective roles taken off the board. And now, Labrov, I'm not going to lie, making your debut on Yuumi is not very exciting, but that said, it is still a very powerful champion.
But this is a handshake that you're going to see a lot. Trading Ezreal, because that's what the Yuumi is saying we are going to pick Ezreal for the Aphelios. Now, Graves has been locked in. An answer that we see around the world to Graves is picking something like a Nidalee. So let's see if NG is going to throw down, say, okay, this is fine, we'll take the Ezreal, we'll take the Yuumi, and we'll take the Nidalee, or if he's going to pivot.
And that's a big deal. So for now, it will be the Ezreal. They can wait. They can take their time. The Azir will follow up. Maybe we see that Nidalee banned away. But while Labrov is going to be making his debut on Yuumi, relatively easy champion, I think we can say, safely say, especially now that E is the most important ability. If NG is playing Nidalee in his first game, that is so hard.
Okay, I do want to quickly touch on this Lulu that was popped in, however. I really love Lulu with Aphelios. I love Lulu with Graves. I'm assuming it's going to be a mid lane Lulu because you already see the blind pick Azir that came out, and Lulu is one of those champions that can lane across from Azir. Not contest him in any of his wave clear, but can survive the lane, can farm, can use some of her range to poke him out, and can build Ardent Sensor. And a Lulu with Ardent Sensor that has a Graves and has an Aphelios is going to have a good time.
If there was a third party that sold Ardent Sensors, I'd be convinced you were sponsored. I feel like every time we talk about League of Legends, I'm talking about Umbral Glaive and you're talking about Ardent Sensor.
The item is busted, Dracos. Ardent Sensor is so cost efficient. It is 23 gold and it gives you like every stat line.
It's not 2,300. It's 23 gold. You buy 8 of them out the base to start. Regardless, it's super powerful, and we can look at that more in game. We're going to get the opportunity potentially to see 2 of those Ardent Sensors with both a Lulu and a Yuumi. But for now, the J4, more comfortable jungle pick, taken away. The Olaf also limited. The Wukong as well. And I'm ready, honestly, to see how this top lane matchup shapes up. While we have a good idea of what's going on in the bottom lane, 2 top laners who were, I think, the strong points for their team when we look at them last split.
Yeah, but Ornn has still slipped through the bans, and I still feel that Ornn is on that pedestal. Like, nothing has really changed. Ornn is still a giant issue. So if he slips through, that kind of feels like the easy answer for me when you already have a Graves, when you already have a Aphelios. You don't need more damage up there. You can just pick the Ornn.
I mean, it's a similar story with the Azir Ezreal comp. Maybe we just get the full-on tank matchup. Maybe that's the evolution of both these lineups, is that old man Otawamne and old man Cabochard take a back seat while the kids go play in the yard, you know? We'll have to find out. The Heimerdinger hover over is cute. Minax, you know, he spent his time in the LCL. He's no stranger to this champion.
Are you scared?
I'm nervous, yes, but it will be the Zoe, which confirms the...
I wanted the Lulu mid.
I know.
I'm disappointed now. It's fine. Zoe's fine.
Not nearly as... Actually, Lulu mid is hella boring. I don't know why you'd be excited about that. She just sits there and waits.
So when I was watching NG, I was peeking in on him, trying to see kind of what he was going to bring to the table for LEC. One of the things that I noticed is his... blind pickable champion pool, kind of the champions that he goes to when he gets squeezed, is something like a Skarner. Even though when you check his solo queue, you know, he's popping off with the Lee Sins, the Elises, and playing more of these carry-oriented junglers. But Duke said that NG's kind of purpose on this roster is to be more of that calming voice, to be more of a shock caller. He showed some competitive games in the LFL on the Skarner. I expect him with the big kind of R go button to be the guy that's like, okay, we're going to do this now, and kind of give a level head to what is a very young roster.
Yeah, with the CC that Skarner brings to the table, you can really be the one to dictate these plays to get your team organized across the map. Final hover or lock-in, though, is going to be the Maokai. This is kind of the only tank matchup, or tank v tank matchup, we really expect to see both Maokai and Ornn, the relative S tiers, at least in terms of the tanks available in the current meta. So I do not think it's going to be the top lane show, but rather, I would say a lot around this mid lane.
Oh boy, when you have Ornn versus Maokai and then you jump towards Azir versus Zoe, I'm like, it's going to be a long one, Dracos. This is going to be, we're farming. This is Skarner and Graves.
You can't see me, but I'm doing that thing where I don't look excited. But that said, I'm generally very excited for these games, and I'm hoping that you're wrong, Frostgrim. History, compositions, draft, all of this would dictate to us that you would be correct. But it's the LEC, and something crazy could happen. It is time for Vitality versus Schalke No Fear.
Did they just leave your mic open?
Ah, maybe. Ooh. Team, it's a banger. I don't even know what that is or what's going on there, but I want that. Give me the full song, LEC. I demand it. All right, here we are in game Frost Current. So prediction so far, slow, much more about scaling. Potentially, I would maybe argue front to back team fighting, perhaps.
Well, look at the bot lane summoner spells. That's a barrier on one side, and then it's teleport on the other side.
Barrier heal.
I'm telling you, I think that the junglers...
But you know what heal on Lulu allows you to do, Frostgurren? Further increase the value of Ardent Sensor, the most hilariously broken support item in the game, next to Umbral Glaive, but there's just no one who can build that support item. It's just Varus.
Peeking it, and like Vladimir's are starting to build Ardent Sensor because it gives you still 60 AP for 2,300 gold. It is so cost efficient. It gives you AP, it gives you CDR, it gives you heal and shield power, and it gives you movement speed. And that's on top of before you even get to the mana regen and its unique passive. What is that?
Someone's going to build it on a very bad champion because of how enthusiastically you're selling it. But you're right, it almost never feels like the wrong choice. And as we check in on this bottom lane, I'm curious to see how the full Greek Lavrov comp bottom lane does, but also how Nukes does. Sir Nukes a lot, player with a lot of strong history in the regional leagues, but last time he was on this stage, I distinctly remember him getting absolutely bodied by Caps' Zoe. He played Zyra, and he died 7 times that game. Each and every single one of them, I believe, a one-shot from Caps' skills. And of course, it's no shame to die to Caps, but I think Nukes cannot afford that same level of performance today.
Unfortunately, the level 1 has been quite rough as he's been tagged a couple of times, as I always want to say Labrov.
Labrov?
Labrov?
Well...
There's got to be a good joke in there somewhere. We'll workshop it.
We'll call him Bruv.
Bruv?
No, I think that's... We'll give him Lavrov for like a few weeks, just like I called Razork Razor K for like a month. I'm not going to do that one again. He ended up winning Rookie the Split. I felt bad.
That's what made you
we'll respect the name.
No, we expect this to be pretty quiet and pretty slow. If there is going to be any action, if, again, you can get Abba's flash early out on this Zoe, and then Melitza can have kill pressure on Azir at level 6 when he does have the swoop-de-scoop, as I like to call it. But otherwise, it's full clears for both junglers, as Skarner's like, I'm farming till level 6, and Graves is like, that's totally fine. I can be a carry myself, and I'm just gonna full clear this, and then I'll see you in a mid-game team fight and blow everyone up.
Yeah, and while Ezreal has some room to kind of get away from that champion, I think it's very hard once Azir's burned his gap closer. If you throw a smoke screen down, Azir's damage output goes to 0 very, very quickly. And that's something that you always have to respect as you get later and later in the game, regardless of how strong Graves is individually. But I guess we'll buckle in. You guys are already at home, so get comfy, grab your snacks. We're waiting for level 6, because while Graves is going to scale and get more items, level 6, he's not going to do much in terms of the CC department. But our boy Skarner, an NG in his debut game, he can make some plays happen with this Predator.
Okay, but we can kind of talk about what has led the jungle development to this course of action. It felt like around Spring Split, there was some issues when there wasn't a lot of experience packed into the jungle, and then all junglers were like, we must gank all the time because that's the only way we'll get anything. As they put experience kind of back into the jungle, you started to see more kind of power farming junglers come over, and now the jungle has been buffed again, items making them really stay really healthy, and these farming junglers, like the Graves, like we said, can just sit, scale, hard farm, and see you in these mid-game team fights and then blow you up. Especially against kind of like short-range composition, Graves really thrives, and his ability to stay in the fight because of how he can stack up True Grit.
And additionally, the phase rush just means that if you get on top of him, it's very easy for him to run away, and if he gets on top of you, it's impossible for you to get away. Very oppressive once Graves gets the lead as well. And it's so interesting, Frostgurn, because it always feels like, because tower plating is in the game, it always feels like there's this kind of invisible pressure that if you can pull off a gank, it's always really just going to pay off. But at the same time, when there's so much to just take in the jungle to farm up this guaranteed return on investment in Graves, it makes it this, I think, difficult balancing act. You really have to consider what your jungler is actually good at when you look how to approach this meta.
In this game, it feels very much that with the Skarner and with the Graves, there's going to be the jungler's time, and then there's going to be your time. And the jungler's time is any time a camp is up because of how effectively and quickly these junglers can farm and how much levels and experience and gold matter to them. Laners, sit back. You are here to farm. This is all about me. You will give me pressure and priority so I can take the camps that I want, but otherwise, like, you're not seeing me.
I can literally hear Catflowers going, hell yeah, in my head as we watch a Skarner on screen while you talk about junglers are the priority. You do what they need you to do. Of course, in this case, I think you're mostly referring to the Graves and Nidalees of the world, but could be true for
Skarner can be important too.
Skarner can be important too.
He's not my favorite champion. I'll say that.
He's a bit limited in what he provides. I feel like everyone knows what Skarner's trying to do at any given moment of the game, probably because it's highly telegraphed. There are specific areas on the map where it literally shows you not to fight him, and he has to be in melee range to do anything.
It means that with Vitality's composition, they're really reliant on Melitza and Cabochard to be involved into these team fights to engage. Otherwise, I personally prefer Schalke's composition. I think we always talk about easier to execute. I think the scaling potential is a bit more dangerous there, and they have a lot of tools to reach that Azir and reach that Ezreal and make their life a living hell.
Yeah, because the thing also is that while Azir we know is his teamfight powerhouse, right, you just always have to give respect over to that Zoe. The potential to really set these plays up, and now Rock's going to secure that one.
That tells you everything you need to know. Both junglers looked at each other, looked at the crab, looked back at each other, took the crab, walked away. No one even threw an auto attack.
It's the good, bad, and ugly. You got your three-way Western duel. It's the crab on one side, two other things, but neither of these guys want to shoot each other. They just want to shoot the crab.
That was like the most handshake. I will go back my way. Yes, sir.
I see. Well played. Back up. We'll take another 10 paces, and we'll try again on the next crab.
Continue farming, yes.
Yes. The high-class League of Legends for the real meta enthusiasts.
I promise that this game will get really exciting when the teams start grouping up. Now, something to watch, because we are dealing with an Ornn and a Maokai when we start getting to those big team fights, is who's actually going to be successful in pulling their top laner to the fights, since both of these top laners have the sole responsibility of starting the fight, of having the primary engage tools.
And additionally, I think one of the big and interesting differences between these two champions is that I think Ornn's ult is much better, but Maokai's W alone as reliable point-click CC, is more reliable. And so for me, way easier to get away with missing an Ornn ult because you get to do it from so far away. It really costs you nothing. Whereas Maokai ult, while strong, very easy to avoid, very unreliable, not always the thing that's going to carry you through in a fight. But these dragons in a slow game are going to be really big because Infernal Drake, or rather Elder Dragon, can just end a game. And the fact that we have gotten rid of both Cloud and both Mountains means that's right, folks. We get one of the good Drakes, aka the Ocean or the Infernal, and that's a big deal.
And we already talked about how much that matters for both champions like Ezreal, Zoe, who are in this game if they get their hands on them. Obviously, Vitality making use of the fact that they are having that priority in both their mid and their bot lane. Comp and Lebrov here have been pretty much permanently parked on NX and Sir Nuke's side of the lane right now, allowing Skarner to just kind of like wiggle in. Of course, Graves isn't going to feel too bad about losing the early Mountain Drake or an early Cloud if it means that he gets to continue to farm.
Absolutely. And you can see 59 to 56. Of course, Skarner just a ludicrously fast farmer. Graves is fast as well, but I think pretty hard to beat a Skarner, especially when there's a cat attached to him. And that looks like we might see some playmaking here on the top side for Oscar.
Yeah, and it means that we get to talk about one of the cool combos of Vitality's comp is putting the Yuumi on the Skarner, which obviously empowers him to be more of a threat.
Uh-oh. That is a very bad time to be sleepy in the mid lane. And here we go, Melitza. Definitely not the debut you were looking for. First blood for Schalke.
And so well chained together from Schalke there. Abadoge's sleepy trouble bubble. As soon as he was out of the sleep, Nukes tags him with the Whimsy. The smoke swing goes down on top of him. Azir had no chance to react to any of that.
Yeah. Good execution here. And of course, Schalke with a lot more time to play together as a full lineup. It's not surprising to see them execute. But also, I think for Melitza, just on the one hand, unfortunate timing. Choosing to commit to that trade at the exact moment. He thought maybe that Predator Yumi'd up Skarner was going to come save his life, but all of Schalke was in position to respond. Melitza now returning to the lane. We'll get the heal to balance out the stolen Ignite coming in from Abadoge, and we get a bit of a reset here. The Drake's traded for the kill. No real big advantages past that. Top lane relatively even. Bot lane a strong point, though, for Vitality as, you know, Aphelios just forced under this tower pretty consistently and not able to keep up with CS.
I do like how you use the word reset, because it did feel like we were watching Vitality set up this type of play of playing more towards the top side, teaming that Yuumi up with the Skarner, but with Melitza going down in that mid lane, it kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, but now back on track, back on the road. They use the TP, they move the Skarner over there, they already have Yuumi and Ezreal, and they're going to pick up the Herald.
And I like this. I think there's a lot of teams who, when a play fails, they'll give up on it entirely, and there are teams who will try too hard to force it again, but it feels like Vitality still recognize this is still our opportunity. As long as we're here, as long as we've got pressure on the side of the map, we can make it happen. And as a result, they're going to get the Herald uncontested. They will have to give up some of their bot side advantage, as it's very likely that Lulu and Aphelios will get a few plates here, but not going to cost them too much overall, as Ezreal's still quite far ahead in terms of farm.
Now, Cabo Shard is walking to this tower. It's still relatively difficult to deal with Ornn as he uses his ult to clear the wave.
Lorax is here too. The fact that he can go unstoppable, though, makes this a very difficult gank to pull off. No Warrior yet coming in for Lorax either. The Caulfield's Warhammer is just 25 AD, whereas the completed Warrior is 60. So a very big difference in itemization to where the Graves would actually like to be. And now we see, honestly, a flawless use of the Rift Herald. Now, that's not the biggest deal. Most teams are pretty good at using it now as they've gotten used to it in Summer Split, or in Spring Split. But the fact that this team, who is playing their first game on this stage, executed it flawlessly is nice to see.
And this could be a type of game where comp on this Ezreal, again, we talked about how Schalke do have tools to try to deal with him, Odoamne in particular to get back there. Lorax, if this Graves gets super fed, is going to do great long-range damage with the ultimate, so maybe you set up the W with the Maokai, you throw the Graves ultimate across of it, NX can fight front to back with the Aphelios. But like, if you don't kill Ezreal, the longer he survives, the more damage he does, and getting fed all of those plates, you could see a setup where Azir zoning farm and Comp and Yuumi do carry this game.
I mean, I can absolutely see it. I think the thing for me, Frostgurn, is it's just when I look at reliable damage output, Ezreal Azir feels so much more reliable to me than the likes of the Zoe / Graves. Because Graves is very close range. Zoe's very skill shot reliant. So if we get a team fight that just breaks out where Vitality get a solid setup, it's so much easier for them to execute. Now that said, Abbedagge is not a man you want to sleep on, but he is a man you want to run down, as NG is showing us here, but Abbedagge will just burn his actual flash there to make it out to safety.
I just think, like you said, it's going to be a lot of front-to-back team fighting. I think it's a bit more restrictive for Schalke to fight front-to-back. Although you can argue both ways. You know, like
this is the difficulty of the scaling argument, right? Is that there's always some subjectivity, and anytime we're like, hey, if you play the team fight this way, this team scales better. And the team on screen goes, oh yeah, we know, we're just not going to fight that way. We're going to fight a completely different way.
But watching Vitality right now try to set up some pressure onto this mid lane, as they've had NG in the area as he was fishing for Abbedagge.
Schalke no fear, though. They've got good pressure on the bottom side. Sadly, the Scuttle Crab reveals them, as they could be walking in to take that Cloud Drake, spawning in 8 seconds. Of course, the Rift is something that we have our eyes on. Rift, not always a big deal, but in games that we expect to go later, it can be a huge turning point.
Big difference right now is the fact that Cabo Shard is still making his way down to this fight, whereas Odoamne has already been pulled. We talked about that earlier in the game. Which team was going to be more successful on pulling the trigger first, on getting their tank grouped up with them. And it looks like this time around it's Schalke. More control over the pit, walk up to the dragon, have the numbers advantage, and steal that one away.
Dragon for dragon. And now as well, the Ocean Rift. And as you mentioned earlier, Frostgurn, the two champions that are most excited about this, it's the Zoe, it's the Ezreal. So it's 1-for-1 on both sides. Both teams eager to get this soul.
So I'm trying to decide who's going to be able to kill the frontliner faster.
I mean, it should always be Aphelios, right? I think to a certain degree.
And that's what I feel like between these two teams, that's what I feel like these team fights are going to come down to. Whose frontline dies slower should win.
It's hard to say. I mean, Azir also does so much damage.
Absolutely.
It's just that obviously the big strength of AD carries at any given moment is that they scale from 3 things: attack, speed, crit, and damage, where I guess Azir is the exception to the normal AP rule where it's just ability, power, and cooldown reduction, because he also scales from attack speed. So Frostgurn, I'm right back to square one. I have no idea.
Which just means that we'll be watching these team fights very closely, trying to figure out who's executing better, because I feel like there's tools and options for both comps.
And Melitza, of course, a solid enough player. I think one of the big things we see from Azir's in pressure moments is they try too hard to make that Azir sec play.
Like what he did in the mid lane?
Yeah, like what he did in the mid lane. And I think that as you get late, like from levels 1 to like maybe 12, the Azir sec is great. But from that point on, you have to recognize you're no longer the Lee Sin initiation and you are the damage source. You cannot throw yourself into the backline like that.
Also, Melitza's responsibility here isn't to be that engage tool. You know, he just needs to play slow for Comp and Lebrov to, as we saw G2 do to Mad Lions, layer down that damage and then look for these engage tools like the Skarner, like the Ornn.
I think the other big part of the conversation when we want to talk about scaling Frostgurn that we have to consider that's, I think, easy to gloss over when you look at the top lane matchup is the additional value that Ornn is going to be providing in terms of item upgrades. Especially in the hands of the Azir and the Ezreal as well as we get later in the game, the upgraded Trinity Fusion. So we're not going to see any Iceborne Gauntlet coming out here. That's going to be a big buff in damage. Of course, there is room for Melitza just to not build items that can be upgraded. Obviously, you'd want to see him pick up that death cap, so have to keep an eye on that itemization, but that is going to be a lot of additional effective stats.
So far, though, it's been pretty much as expected. A lot of ping-pong of these waves. Slow, more farming-oriented as everyone's handshaking and trying to get to these key items.
think the big problem for Oscar is that when we talk about Zoe, and this is something that I think you introduced me to, the concept of like once you break mid lane tier 1 tower, Zoe goes from annoying to impossible to play against. And neither team has really had a big enough advantage here to actually break mid lane open. We've seen the Heralds used, and both times going into the side lanes, not being focused on that mid lane. NG, while he is going to get a little bit cheeky here, he's just going to get a bubble to the face and won't find anything else.
I do like the fact that NG is continually checking, though, to see if Abba's going to be able to tap him with that bubble, because if he does miss it, Skarner's just going to fly at him, walk him down.
It's the skill check.
Might as well check. See if the reflexes are working.
I mean, right at this point in the game, totally fine to check. Zoe gets a few more items, maybe not so much. And already we do see the respect QSSs coming out, so the Skarner tax has been paid for Abadage. Does not want to risk dying here on whatever side lane he ends up on.
Okay, Herald is up. We potentially may see another team fight. I promised the viewers that there would be some explosive action as soon as the teams started grouping up. This might be one of those opportunities.
To be fair, though, Schalke once again first to the objective.
The difference is, though, is that Vitality have the TP on Azir, whereas Abba's sitting on Flash and Ghost right now, and he does have initial rotation.
Well, Vitality for now focusing on the blue buff there, going to get that Scryer's Bloom. He will be able to move into the area and deny a little bit of this vision. Now we see Graves moving down to the bottom side of the map, so it looks like Herald won't actually be the focus here for the teams. Obviously with the tower plates down, second Herald not nearly as impactful, can be a pressure point, but won't just be a guaranteed source of gold.
Wow, actually just not deciding to fight for it at all. Like, 100% Schalke
like,
knows
you were
this
waiting,
is happening.
it's time for a fight, and they're like, no, Froskgren, that's for 30 minutes. We need to scale a little bit more.
Instead, using the time to continue to funnel farm, particularly on their Zoe and their Aphelios. That's now 2 completed QSSs. You already mentioned that Zoe's was there in the mid lane. It's now also Aphelios down there on the ADC role. So taking a bit of a right-hand turn, not grabbing the Zeal immediately. That's going to slow down his build path and possibly slow down this game.
Absolutely. I mean, the good news is, if you're an Aphelios player, though, is that in days past, if you had an Ornn, or rather not an Ornn, like a Braum or a Tahm Kench support, you would never, it would just feel bad to build this QSS, right? But because there is
a Lulu
building your favorite item in the game, it kind of balances out. That's basically an extra half item for free. You're much less behind the curve than you otherwise would have been because that Lulu has the Ardent Censer.
Naturally, the team with the Rift Herald, though, is trying to muscle their way through here, decide where they want to use it, as we set up for Drake.
Fight, fight, fight. We're waiting for it.
Look at Otoame, he's top.
He has TP, though. He wants to push his wave out. He's TPing from behind. A good ult here could get a lot done, but Lorax is going to come over the wall. Lorax goes over the wall. Lorax is going to steal it. That's going to be massive, but Cabochard has thrown his ult into the fray. He's going to get locked up, though, and he's not going to be able to fire the ult back. Otoame, meanwhile, buying so much time on the backside. The front line might be dead before this fight even kicks off, but Schalke's trying to turn it. Melitza's still alive. So much damage comes in. Cabo's still living. Melitza's still alive as well, and Comp is going to be unkillable for now, but Yuumi will not transfer, and that means there's not enough healing to keep Cabochard alive. That said, Comp is playing like a man possessed. They're continuing to push forward. He knows he's untouchable with this Yuumi on his back, and Vitality will still find some kills on the back end of that one.
Now, Schalke did end up with the Drake, but after everything had gone through, after the big engage tools, Otoame with that massive ult behind him, they weren't able to throw down the Ezreal. He survived the entire fight. The longer the fight goes on, the higher damage output Ezreal is going to have, and just turned it on its head. So, get the replay. There's Lorax over the back of the pit, snags that Ocean Drake. That is going to be, I guess, a small victory here, but big team fight win. They don't have their tank in front of them. Otoame gets pushed out of the fight, jumps onto Cabochard, tries to get in front of him, but Comp is Ezreal with Yuumi. Walks everyone down.
I think not the cleanest team fight overall, but we do see a lot of what Vitality's comp is good at, which is kind of weathering the storm with that Yuumi, and also the kind of the weakness of Schalke's comp in that the Graves, the Zoe, and the Aphelios, in theory, are all very vulnerable to Skarner. Of course, there's 2 QSSs to balance it out, but we saw after stealing that Drake, Lorax essentially got to do nothing in that fight.
And it just means that Schalke's composition is going to be really reliant on when they can actually have kill threat on something like the Skarner and the Ornn. And that is the graph that tells exactly what happened.
5k Ezreal damage.
No one touched Ezreal Yuumi, and they got to have a field day.
It's only going to get scarier, too. This is we might as well trademark it at this point. Ezreal 2-item power spike. And you hit it perfectly around that timing, so.
What do you want to call the, so, you know, like Brangelina, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
A bit, I don't know if our audience is familiar with Brangelina,
okay,
but.
Audience. Brangelina, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie.
Got it.
famous celebrity couple. You then combine their names because you're used to seeing them so much. Ezreal, Yumi, kind of like the Brangelina of League of Legends. True. But what do you name them?
It's really hard because none of my names are wholesome. Froster, you're putting me on the spot. Let us know on Twitter. That's the easiest out. You pretend like it's a community poll. Let us know on Twitter what we should call the Ezreal Yumi bot lane. There has to be an absolute banger out there, and I'm sad I can't think of it on the fly.
We may also not be able to say it on stream.
That's true. Almost definitely true. But anyway, Vitality pushing in. They are going to break open the mid lane. They'll use the Herald as well, so they should get potentially an extra charge, depending on how many resources Schalke want to commit here. And suddenly Vitality looking pretty damn fine in this game. 2.5 items on the Ezreal. Bits and pieces here for the Azir, but he's getting closer and closer to 3. And you've got double Ornn upgrades on the Ornn, which means items for his allies are not too far away. Everything going smoothly on the Vitality side of the map.
Yeah, you also got the Righteous Glory and the Yumi now on the Skarner. You already talked about the threat that Skarner and zone control he's able to provide when he just sprints at you. He doesn't even have to catch anyone. He just has to zone them away from the fight. Again, it feels like Schalke are going to be really reliant on having kill threat on NG, that when he does run at them, that they can actually walk him down. So I do feel like this is almost like an arms race between the tanks and the front lines.
And my concern for Skarner is that I want to, just taking a look at Lorox's itemization, I appreciate the Duskblade. You know, his job is in theory to kill Abadage, or not to kill Abadage, that would be rude of him. It's to kill Melitza, you know, it's to kill the Azir, it's to kill Comp, it's to kill the Ezreal. I get that, but he doesn't get to kill those people unless the tanks are gone. Like, this is a game where I feel like I really would have loved to see the Black Cleaver. I would have loved to see more armor shred to set up Aphelios to do more. Instead, he's that very selfish, kind of very aggressive Graves build, but because there's so much armor on the Skarner and the Ornn, he's not going to really be any threat to that front line.
I mean, I agree with that point, but if he does manage to find Azir or Ezreal, which very hard, very slippery
All I'm saying is, all 3 champions have dashes, but can you tell me at home whose dash is the shortest? It's the Graves.
The problem is that this is the type of game where you have a feeling how it should go, but because of the teams playing, you're like, anything can happen.
Absolutely, and now we see Lorox set up in this push, and if Comp face checks the wrong order, he will get, not quite one shot, but one combo down. So, it's a very different strategy. It's not going to be front to back for Mr. Graves here. Maybe instead looking for that flank. And when you have a Zoe on your team as well, there is a lot of opportunity to pick, to poke, to find individual pickoffs before fights kick off.
Yeah, they're playing hit and run League of Legends while Aphelios is just doing his best vacuum impression, Hoover impression for our European UK fans. He's just trying to sit, get as much farm as possible. He's not got that zeal.
All I'm saying is the fact that we don't have a vacuum sponsor yet is astonishing. There are so many 80 carries who just power farm in our league when they're given Aphelios. It could be a great opportunity. That's all I'm saying. BD, let's make it happen. The Dyson power farmer of the game.
Upset every game.
And Laos Biko also makes vacuums, in which case it's the Biko power farmer of the game. Regardless, NG is going to grab this one, interestingly uncontested. It feels like Schalke, after that last fight, are significantly more hesitant. And of course, mid lane tower being down, they don't really have vision, so it makes sense, but also surprised to see them pull their foot off the gas this much.
Oh no, I think it's really expected. You know, it's not for Soul just yet. We already talked about how important funneling farm onto NX is going to be right now. Like, Schalke are making a very conscious decision to be like, top tower for Ocean Drake, that's fine. Shake that every single time, buy you some more time before this Baron is becoming into play and getting Aphelios to that point that we need him.
Yeah. The difficulty now for Vitality is I think they're keen to fight. They're done. They don't want to keep handshaking on trades, but Schalke just keeps being like, oh yeah, sure. Oh no, we'll go over here and trade. We'll go over here and trade. They're like, no, come to us. Fight, please, fight. Especially with Comp now getting the Trinity Fusion. The cooldown boots as well. This man is going to be free firing in these team fights and nigh unkillable, especially once he completes that Blade of the Rune King. That front line is going to be quite miserable.
I think it's going to be the Bork and not the...
The Gunblade, I miss double tier Ezreal every day. It made me look like a competent Ezreal player because I never had to auto attack. God bless that build.
Okay, but here comes the Baron play. You just called it. Vitality are trying to force their hand right now. Schalke have done a good job avoiding them while prioritizing Aphelios' farm. But now Vitality trying to speed up this game by being like, okay, no, the Baron's now in play and in threat.
Question is, do they have the confidence to try to force something here without a larger advantage to try to play the slow game?
Flash on Skarner, and Righteous Glory Flash Yumi Skarner, there's always the opportunity. Someone steps out of position.
And right now that someone is Nukes. It's that Lulu. The other 3 members have QSSs.
It's really hard, though, on Lulu, because if Skarner runs at her, she's just going to whimsy him.
Yeah, input buffer on the W makes it nigh impossible. He really has to come out of Fog of War. And obviously, you can grab Otoamne. We can list that on the realm of possibility, but that feels super dumb. You're just giving Otoamne exactly what he wants, which is access to your damage dealers.
And Schalke have actually held strong. It feels like kind of for the last 2 to 3 minutes, Vitality have been threatening, trying to posture around placing vision, looking for the picks here. And yeah, Vitality's probably saying it's fine if the game gets stalled out because we still do have the Ezreal, the Azir. We've talked about it all game long, that they also have late game damage threats. But you know, that's like the one opportunity that Schalke have with their comp right now is more time for Aphelios. And Schalke were able to hold and buy more time.
Yeah, and I like that from Schalke. It's a good, clear-headed call, I feel like, overall. And I also have to say, I know we're giving Vitality the clean slate. I know it's a new roster, but I can't help but compare a little bit to last season. And I already feel like there is so much more control. There is so much more, like, coordination that we're seeing in these team fights. And maybe I'm, you know, a bit ahead of myself on this one, but I like what we're seeing, and it already feels like improvement, which is a pretty, a huge thing, just coming in one game into the split.
And we're going to have to put a closer eye on what's going to happen with these team fights is now cresting past 25 minutes. We're probably going to see a lot more of them as just the outer towers are kind of finally being picked up.
One at a time here. Of course, Schalke staying just about neck and neck in gold overall. We're about 2 minutes out from Ocean, but it is not sole point, so neither team really needs to fully contest, which means all eyes are centered here on the Baron pit. Predator is being popped here. NG now running forward. He's trying to eye out a target. He's going to flash forward. The Lulu has been caught out. She didn't get a chance to Whimsy, and that means it's all but over. Goodbye to Nukes a lot. He's going to get knocked out on that one. Big team advantage for now. Schalke, can they turn this one back? But now Comp is on the hunt. Paired. Oh, I was going to say paired with the Yuumi, he's unescapable, but NX manages to land that snare, and it will save his team. And
Schalke got faked out right there. They saw multiple members of Vitality on the bottom side. They moved into the Baron River to either place vision or even possibly check the objective themselves. And right on point, Angie flies out of that bush, snags the Lulu, creates the pick to set up this pressure for Vitality on Baron.
6K, 5K getting lower. Lorox is on the way, but he's pretty far away. 3K health getting lower and lower. NX going to throw the ultimate in. That's going to be big. That's a shutdown. Oh, they can get in and seal this one. Andy's going to run. He's going to get the smite. But can Schalke find the follow-up fight? Otoamne immediately into the backline. He's going to get shoved back by Melitza. An excellent disengage, but here comes the sapling. That might be enough. Lorox gets the phase rush, but he will not pursue because of the exhaust and Vitality. A bit messy, a bit hectic, but they get the Baron. At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
They got the Baron and a really clean disengage with Melitza's ultimate right there to cut off the choke point. Now, Schalke will be able to kind of pick up table scraps here by trading for the mid tower, but it's going to have to be a very quick reset if they want to contest for this Drake.
Should be able to grab this one. Well, you normally assume uncontested, but Enchi remaining on the map, went back, got that Gargoyle Stone Plate, and is already zoomed in here. Good vision covering the area. Enchi isn't even going to see the control ward over the wall with the sweeper. I think maybe Schalke just trying to go again. Of course, you don't want to let them use their Baron buff, so maybe try to force another fight, but no chance to contest this objective. The TP's coming in, but a little bit late here as Comp returns to the mid lane.
And at this point, Schalke are like, okay, we've set ourselves up that we can actually contest for a soul. We stalled at the game long enough that Aphelios was doing massive damage. We saw how effective his ult was there. Now what we need to do is survive the Baron. They're playing full red zone defense right now. No one dies. No one takes a step out of place. Just wave clear, give away towers if you need. We want to fight and win the game on the next big team fight for things like that Dragon Soul.
You've heard of leave no man behind. This is leave everything that is not a man behind. You take the towers, they can take the minions, they can take any other objectives they want. Do not, under any circumstances, give up a player.
But on the other side, we talked about it with G2's composition, Vitality's composition for how big Comp is. Now having that Blade of the Ruin King complete, this is exactly where he wants to be. He's got the Baron behind him, means he's always going to have you underneath the tower, and he's just taking pot shots. And when those Qs connect on top of Yumi's Qs, it is massive damage. And if someone gets chunked low enough, that's going to be the Oran Horn and the go-ahead for Vitality to storm under the tower and end this game.
Now it just puts the pressure on, or that much more pressure on Schalke, knowing that that kind of powder keg is waiting to go off at any moment. All it takes is for someone to be out of position, and Comp obviously continuing to farm up. Interesting to see what his final choice is. I would love a cheeky Duskblade, frankly. I think that item's really fun on Ezreal, but I think more likely that we'll see the Death Stance double lifesteal itemization is NX, reminding us why the superior scaling AD carry is mostly considered Aphelios.
It wouldn't have been that way. So there was two things there. The Ezreal Q didn't hit NX, and we would have seen how much damage that would have done. And NX wasn't able to tag the Aphelios ultimate.
All right, let's see right here. Oh, no, he's arming the creeps. Q. All right, well, he's 0 for 3 since we've been really taking an eye on these Qs, but the ult will... Never mind. Unlucky.
Stop cursing him, Dracos.
I'm absolutely
just let the man
cursing him. He's just going to play. Sit in the tower. NX, though, still stepping forward with a lot of confidence. Has to give a lot of respect. Obviously, you can get the Whimsy, you can get that movement speed steroid from Lulu, but you don't quite have the same amount of reliable safety, and you have to respect the Ornn and the Skarner in these fights.
And unfortunately, it feels like Vitality's Baron has now teetered out here. Not being able to tag that damage, you know, missing a lot of damage potentially with a lot of these skill shots going wide. The fact that some mistimed resets came in, that, you know, all of Vitality weren't consolidated to really push with the Baron. Schalke kind of wiped their hands and be like, that was pretty painless, actually. We survived the Baron, only lost, I think, 2 structures, continued to pick up massive damage. The Death Stance is now completed on Aphelios. Feeling good.
Absolutely feeling good. The additional crit cloak as well, so he's up to, I believe, 70%. It's only 20% on the crit cloak now. Additionally, remember that they won the Ocean Drake in that last exchange. It was kind of their consolation prize, which at the time seemed like a bad deal, but now that Vitality have failed to get any greater advantage of the Baron, is great. They're on sole point. If it chooses between trading Dragon or Baron, Vitality have to be willing to go to the Dragon to contest the Ocean Soul.
Wait, Schalke fans have been here, and
True.
I feel like there's a little bit of fear because Schalke games get extended, and the longer they go, the less consistent some of the macro decision makings have been made around really important objectives like soul points, like elders. So I'm glad that we're gonna, you know, trial by fire Schalke in their first game back.
Room to showcase improvement, Frostgren, I think is how much more polite can we get that phrasing. But Melitza now, of course, with the upgraded Death Cap, pushing here on the side lane. Both teams more than enough tools to win a fight. It's just about trying to spend all their effort to find the perfect battleground to fight it, to find the perfect setup. Now, Odoamne does have to be careful here. He is very tanky, but could get picked off. He will just throw his ult out, try to buy a bit more space. I don't think they're going to commit onto this one. One Horn coming in, and Axe going to throw his ult out. Big damage to chunk out to start the fight, but it's just going to be the tier 2 tower and a lot of resources burned from both sides.
But now you have to think that Schalke are going to play pretty slow until they have access again to the Maokai ultimate. Meanwhile, Vitality picking up another free tower, continue to stack gold. We've talked about a lot of the damage items that have come through. You know, you have the Gargoyle Stoneplate now up on Skarner. Ornn has basically just been about himself, and now he has the redemption item on top of it. These are very beefy boys for Vitality. And as long as these skill shots are connecting, as long as Azir is in position...
Yeah. We were talking about range supports being the meta in the bottom lane. We just forgot the top lane are also just melee supports, because we're going to get Locket and we're going to get Redemption for both of these guys. And that's going to be huge shields in the team fight. And that's going to... A lot of the poke that Zoe wants to bring to the table, if they can start a fight and catch her out, her damage is just not going to be relevant when it can all be immediately blocked out by those 2 items together.
Okay, so everything is up for everyone. Virtually everyone has flash, everyone's got their summoner spells. The Maokai ultimate has backup. This is it.
This... Ooh, 4 members sitting there on that one. Unstoppable now as Odoamne wants to back off. The cat ult has been used. Odoamne is going to flash out to safety. Schalke really not set up for success there. They get the Yuumi ult, but clean take there from Vitality, and Schalke forcing themselves into that funnel, allowing 4 members to get hit by the Ezreal ult and the ensuing Yuumi ult. Just means that there was no way for them to take that fight.
And Schalke, the only time that they can be in position to take a fight like that is if they get there first. If you're ever delayed coming to that monster objective or that area on the map, this Ezreal is just going to have a fish in a barrel. That's what it is. It is a really good time to just continue to chunk you. So that was Schalke being slow to react, of setting up for that. And now, we're 3 dragons apiece. The Baron will be spawning soon. We will both be competing for soul.
Oh my god, we're 3 dragons apiece. We're 3-3 in kills. We're not 3 towers of 3, sadly, but Comp won't get caught out there.
Were you like trying to decode the secret message?
I was like, what are we doing? 30? It was 33 minutes? It wasn't. It was 35. I was hoping. I was getting real deep. I was getting real Illuminati on it, but Schalke will have first access chance to set up here on this buff, as Vitality have opted to take another reset. Maybe they can get something done. And Frostgren, we wanted front-to-back team fights, but I feel like it's so much more about vision. Or it was right up until Schalke decided to vote for this one. Maybe Vitality want to look for the fight here. Tons of damage coming in from that Ezreal ult. Once again, Nukes and Lorox taking big chunks here. Good patience coming in from Vitality. They wait out Odoamne's cooldowns before they commit for more.
Doesn't have great Aphelios items to just burn that Baron. He has more team fighting items, which is why Schalke are really keen to turn off Baron and feel free to give that one away.
Yeah, and sadly for them, the way that Vitality's positioning is so solid because you can already see Melitza pushing in the mid lane. The way Vitality is walking is just saying, we will protect our mid laner while he pushes in and takes your towers, and the only way you can stop this is to fight in your jungle on our terms. And now we see the fight breaking out. Melitza now walking over, but they started the fight a little bit early. Melitza's not in the area. For now, it's Vitality. They're at a disadvantage. Melitza off to the side. Abadagi trying to find this poke, but NX cannot afford to overextend. Comp essentially untouchable at this point. Will not get hit by the sleepy trouble bubble. Melitza will push in a little bit more, but I have to wonder why Vitality tried to force there. Melitza could have taken the tower.
But we are really sitting on a knife's edge, though. Anything goes sideways in these team fights, and that's it. It's going to be game virtually either direction because you're starting to see how much damage is coming out of both of these comps. So if NX gets his moment to shine and gets to step forward and kind of be that big hyper carry at this point, then things look good for Schalke. But comp is disgusting on Ezreal. Hate this champion with Yuumi.
As do I. I think the unfortunate thing is just Schalke, you know, they try to rush down the Baron, they've got the vision, they've got the setup, but then you group up for Ezreal ult and everyone takes 600 damage in the pit, and suddenly you gotta respect the Ornhorn a little bit more. And the lack of tanky bodies on the side of Origin, and Maokai, it just doesn't feel like enough in this game.
They just really weren't set up for what Aphelios' guns he had available. Maybe next time it's better. So here we go.
Abadagi getting us kicked off. Odoamne leaping forward, trying to catch multiple people in the pinch. It looks like he will be able to lock down Comp, trying to get a bit more space here. Lorox off to the side. The Graves has found his way forward, but he has not into the backline quite yet. And X untouched for now. Lorox can use the collateral damage to take himself out to safety. It's just going to be the one kill in the favor of Vitality. Things look so promising for Schalke there, but it is simply not enough.
And we do need to point out, Lorox is level 17, but yeah, it doesn't feel like a level 17 Graves. You know, you're expecting the big damage, and I think it's the heals that it's coming out of Lulu are just so oppressive as Vitality back on the Baron.
And keep in mind, we have no healing reduction. On the side of Schalke, no fear. 3K getting lower and lower. Lorox looking for his hero moment, but Comp coming right over the wall. They've taken the Baron. They're looking to take more, and this is very much the last stand, the last holdout here for Schalke. If Vitality break the base, the game is surely over.
Taking another look at this one, we talked about how Lorox is level 17, Comp is also level 17, and the damage that he is able to output. Oh no! Trying to get to these back lines, but it was about whose front line was going to be more oppressive, and Vitality are just shredding through.
I just think in these late game team fights, the stronger front line just wins. Because what we saw there is Lorox is like, yes, finally backline access. Runs at the Ezreal. The Ornn continues to hit the rest of the team. The Skarner goes, oh, I see you've come to try to hit the backline. Cuts him off, and he's got a Duskblade and a Black Cleaver. It's going to take him a year to kill anyone. It's just, it's not enough. I'm still so sad about this Duskblade buy. I know what he's trying to do, but it's just so hard to pull off.
He's trying to cut down a tree with like a spoon.
Yeah. It's like you can sharpen the axe, or you can have the bad axe and a spoon. He's like, oh, I'll take the spoon every time.
Soul, 26 seconds.
Of course, now 4K gold lead, but I think more importantly, the Baron buff and the Dragon Soul. 20 seconds, they're not going to be using the Baron buff to put a ton of pressure here into the mid lane. Instead, it will just be Melitza on side, throwing a few waves up, demanding a bit of a response from Schalke, and then Ocean Soul in the eyes of Vitality.
And Vitality are now, you know, this close to taking down Schalke and starting their LEC summer with a victory. We talked about how time was not on either of these rosters' side, that the expectations were very different. They're probably not fighting for Worlds tickets, but almost kind of fighting to survive or fighting to have a new fresh start. And here's the team fight.
It's going to be a sleepy Ezreal. Lorox off to the side, but he's still just hitting Cabo Shard, not the target that he needs to.
There it goes. The team fight.
We said fighting for their lives, but right now Schalke can't fight for anything. They just have to give objectives up left and right, and I'll be honest, for Vitality, I'd like to see a bit more proactive, kind of aggressive play. Now that the ball is in their court, I would love to see them really force on this, but they can just wait and play the scaling game. Go for Elder. They've got so much poke. They've got so much agency on this map.
It's fine. Play it slow. The composition is just really hard to deal with. I feel like from Schalke, you're going to start to see some desperation here. And that's probably going to be with Odoamne looking for a really deep teleport flank. And that might be the hill that Schalke die on.
Ah, Frosk, that's just so difficult to pull off because he doesn't have any damage and there's QSSs everywhere. And there's no one who can really follow him into that back line, sadly. The Zoe not super reliable. Lorox has really struggled to get past the front line, so it's possible. I think you're right. That's where you have to keep your eyes, but it is so hard to pull off.
No, you're pulling up a really good point. You know, maybe Odo decides he's just going to stand next to Inax, and they do try to fight this front to back, and Maokai's literally there to dissuade Skarner from running at him.
And you can see in the way Inax is simultaneously killing the wave and all of Vitality in that little damage exchange there that you have to respect the Aphelios. But at this point, I feel like because not only are Schalke so far behind, but because of the fact that Ezreal is uncatchable and that both Skarner and Ornn can really kick fights off, means that Vitality are completely dictating the pace of this game, and Schalke just have to respond.
And credit to Comp. I mean, it's not all entirely him. Everyone is kind of doing their job on Vitality, creating space for this guy, but if he doesn't die kind of initially, if no one finds him, time and time again, these team fights are being carried on the back half because of his damage output with Lebrov. So this Vitality bot lane doing work.
And unless he seriously mispositions Frost, I actually think he's unkillable because we are...
He's untouchable.
Hundreds of gold away from a Mikhail's Crucible on top of his own, Quicksilver Sash, now turned into the Mercurial Scimitar, double lifesteal items, Yuumi healing, and still, I believe, no healing reduction on the enemy team. Graves just now.
Oh, he's got an Executioner's
He's got the Executioners now. Back. But remember, Graves hasn't been hitting the back line, and that's been one of the big problems in the first place, so I'm still, I think, rightfully concerned.
You gotta go through the front line first, and here we go.
Odoamne trying to kick it off. Big damage now coming in from Inax. He's immediate use of the QSS. Odoamne taking a ton of health there, but that's going to be the blue wall now coming in. Infernum not going to be enough. Comp still unkillable. Absolutely. Abbedagge has to run for the hills, and this is just a slaughter. Comp playing with his food. He can leap forward whenever he wants, but he pulls his foot off the gas. He sets his sight on the objectives, and Vitality are just dominating.
They are unkillable. NG didn't take any damage. Look at him, he's full health. He just ran and Inax completely zoned him from the fight, and now Vitality are on the base.
Vitality now set up to end. Schalke get one more shot at this fight with less cooldowns, less tools to kick things off, but maybe they can catch Vitality overextending. Oh, Frost. 42-minute game. You called it.
I mean, it was pretty obvious.
I'm an expect the unexpected kind of guy. And
I always get scared.
This is an expect the expected kind of game.
I get really scared in these types of games when they go so long.
Oh.
Because it really is just kind of one mistake, one misstep.
And it feels, I think as a player, it has to feel so terrible, right? Because you know what the Reddit thread says after this game if one person gets caught out. It's like, oh my god, X player, what a clown.
Like, unfortunately, right now, there's just not a lot. So we take a look at this team fight. Angie pops the Gargoyle Stone play, and then you've got Odo and Inax on one side of the fight, and then the rest of Schalke stuck on the other side. Lorox deleted fairly early on, and again, the damage dealing of Azir and Ezreal. And be on top of it.
What else we saw in that fight that is just so oppressive is the fact that because Ezreal has double lifesteal and his own QSS now, if he's not directly threatened, Yuumi just goes on to Skarner, and then Skarner's unkillable. Despite Aphelios hitting him for 6 or 7 seconds in that fight, his health bar was basically full. Gargoyle Stone Plate into Yuumi, that's actually unkillable.
Yep. You have to, like, tag him with a bubble and then immediately pop him.
Yeah, and I think, really, it's sad to say this because I think Vitality really has been a team effort, but it is all eyes on Comp. We are, and for Schalke, I think it's a similar story. That everyone is just looking at Comp saying, Comp, miss position once, please. We will instantly win this game. Just step a little bit out of position.
I don't know if they do, though. Even if you kill Comp, they're still in his ear.
That's very true. Well, that's going to be Baron and Ocean Soul, and we're a minute away from Elder. We can get the Holy Trinity.
How many dragons are in this game?
So many. 7? This will be the 8th. Wow.
Surely.
Let's not curse it, you know what I mean? Let's just take it for what it is. If Vitality need double Elder to end the game, I'm not going to judge.
Not double Elder, just single Elder.
Single Elder?
Yeah.
One Elder at a time.
That's fine.
All right.
Vitality are, again, fresh start, free from the sins of the past roster.
Hell yeah, Complicant, very solid. Really showing us the power of this duo, especially once the things like the Varus and the Callista are banned away. And Inax, bless his heart, hasn't had a bad game, just can't really kill the front line at this stage. Or can now, but hasn't really gotten the opportunity to do so. Weeds are pushing in, the split pressure here, really solid. Abbedagge without really getting a chance to respond. Comp
I mean, Inex just kind of threw everything there.
Yeah.
Everyone's full health. Yuumi just pops onto him.
There's a wave crashing in topside as well. Really good control here coming in for Vitality, crashing so many waves at the same time, making it so that Schalke have to take a fight if they want to get anything done. Odoamne now leaping forward. The ulti coming out, but he's going to get pulled back, and they're going to shred him down. That's the front line gone. That's the tank gone. Comp's still alive, and this should just be an absolute massacre. Yuumi Ezreal going to run through the entire team. Melitza as well coming in for the double kill, and Vitality slow and steady controlled. But the moment they got this advantage, they have not given it up, and they have closed it out cleanly. Vitality, a clean slate and a fresh start. Their first win of the 2020 Summer Split.
Can't ask for much more from Vitality right there. Huge credit to their bot lane in particular. Everyone was doing their job. Great zone control between Cabo and NG in front of him, but it really did feel like the Comp and Lebrov show.
Absolutely did, but we have to give credit to NG because we talked about his playstyle as being kind of this leader and kind of the shot caller. And
We assume
from what we've been told, that's his style behind the scenes, kind of what we can expect from him. And that was, can't say for certain who called or made all those calls, but that was a relatively clean game from Vitality.
There also just weren't a ton of options for Schalke. You could see, again, what the composition wanted to do, but it just took so long to be able to have any kill threat on the front line, and then eventually they just stopped having kill threat, it felt, on the front line, and at that point, you just knew it was going to be an inevitable rollover from Vitality with Azira and Ezreal.
All right, yeah. Sad, rough game for Schalke. We'll see what they can do in the week to come. But our key player of the game at LEC on Twitter is the place Cabo, NG, or Comp.
Where's the Yuumi love?
Yeah, where's the Yuumi? Do you know how many E's and R's we saw push that game? Many is the answer out there in the Twitterverse. But of course, otherwise, just let us know. Cabo, NG, Comp. I think it's a hard one to decide.
What? It's Comp.
I mean, he had a Yuumi.
Yeah.
If we call them one entity, sure. But otherwise, it's like, so few kills happened that game. It's really hard for me to decide who actually made the biggest impact. It was so slow. It was so controlled.
No, everyone knows. Viewers at home, you know, it was